Janet, we have a moment there of absolute agreement. I don't dispute anything that you just said. I simply ask that if I'm being vilified for repeating something that has, from the very start of your media profile, if you like, has been
which I critiqued
accepted
in the opening of my book.
You've made that
10
very clear.
10 pages in, I critiqued that piece.
Here is my point. Why is it? Explain to me. Let me learn something here. Explain to me why it is so offensive for somebody like you, who grew up a boy until you were into your teenage years, and your family treated you as a boy, and you were biologically a boy, that you then have gender reassignment surgery, and you become a woman, and you've always felt that you're a woman. As I said right off the top last night, you have always felt inside you that you're a female. And I did not dispute that at all, and I don't dispute it to you now. And I have absolute respect for you believing that has always been your gender. But I also believe that the phrase gender reassignment means that you had a sex change operation. It means that you go from male to female or female to male. That is the legal definition of gender reassignment. So I think
that gender is a lot more complex.
Well, let me ask you the question.
Let me ask you the question. Than that.
Let me ask you the question. The question is, here's where I want to learn, because I don't want this to be an ongoing issue that I have with the community of which you are such a great spokesman and advocate. I want to learn why it is so offensive to actually just say that you grew up as a boy and you then, because you've always felt that you were female, you had surgery to become a woman, to become a real woman, as you say in the book. Why is it offensive?
I think that we need to have a discussion about what gender is and gender expectations in our culture. I think that we are born and we're assigned a sex at birth. That is a matter none of us have control over. But we do have control over our destinies and over our identities. And we should be respected. It's not about the past. It's not about what surgeries I may or may not have had. It's not about how I disclose my gender to people. It's about who I am right now. I'm Janet Mock. I'm author of Redefining Realness, and I'm a fierce trans advocate. And I will continue to be exactly that. That's what I was on this show to do. If I spoke out every single time that someone called me out of my name or labeled me as something that I'm not, I would not have time to advocate for the fierce and urgent issues in my community, issues of poverty and joblessness, of a lack of health care, of violence, verbal and physical violence against trans women.
How does it help you, Janet, that somebody like me, who has been such an open supporter of the community that you represent so well and so publicly, that you target me for what you knew would be a load of abuse that then followed? You did. The tweets last night ignited a firestorm of abuse and vilification my way because you said I had sensationalized your story. I was not formerly a man. I wasn't formerly a boy. It was another tweet you said. All this kind of rhetoric that you produced. And yet, yeah, but Janet, they were important tweets to me and important tweets to
And I did not tweet them at you. I tweet them at the framework of your show and how they were packaging this story that we did. Our exchange was completely fine. But when you package something with the headline, until 18 was a boy, and also say formerly a man, when in talking about my beloved, the love of my life, and our interaction together, that is false advertising, and that is infotainment, because I understand as someone who worked in media, who worked at People magazine,
Janet,
who worked as an editor, I understand that sensationalizing our stories entices people to look in. But I hope that the best thing that we can get out of it is to be a learning and teaching moment for all of us.
Janet, with the greatest of respect, and I mean with the greatest of respect, you've written a book, Redefining Realness, My Path to Womanhood. My path to womanhood, identity, love, and so much more, right? I've got here, as I say, the Marie Claire article that started your whole media profile. I was born a boy, repeatedly, in your words, saying
I did not write that
born a boy.
piece. It's not my words.
So let me ask you a simple question.
Words are precious, and I really believe that we need to give people. I would like to ask you a question.
Okay, can I ask mine first, then you can ask yours?
Okay.
Okay? My question is simply this. Do you dispute that you were born a boy?
Do I dispute that I was born a boy? I was born a baby who was assigned male at birth. I did not identify or live my life as a boy. As soon as I had enough agency in my life to grow up, I became who I am. And this did not start at 18 when I went to Thailand to have surgery. It started when I was 6 years old, and my parents saw me for who I was and allowed me to live my life. That's a lot of nuance,
Okay.
and it's hard to communicate that in 30 seconds or even in a 140-character tweet. That's why I'm here right now. I want this to be a learning and teaching moment for all of us, because there's a lot of misunderstanding. Just as much as you were vilified, or as you say, from my supporters, that's actually my community, who are vilified every single day and misunderstood and drove into isolation and told that who they are is incorrect and wrong and should be under investigation. And my question to you is, will you please use your platform to continue to tell our stories and to let us...
Yes.
Well, there
yes,
you go.
as I always have done.
Yes, and I would love to have coffee with you and sit down and have a real conversation off air and really
I'm sure we will do that.
And have transcendence and understand one another.
Right, but let me jump in. I have never said that you were wrong, or that anyone who's been through a transgender process is wrong or was somehow in the wrong place or wrong body order. I've never used that kind of terminology. I would see that as being obviously offensive. I don't see that as being wrong, that you were born a boy and felt you were a woman and are now a woman. I don't feel that anything of that is wrong. And I don't think the terminology is offensive. And I think my complaint about what you did with those tweets is that, A, you never raised any of this as an issue during the interview where I repeatedly referred to you as having been male before. You never picked me up on it or showed any sign of irritation. And I think that I just felt that you threw me to the wolves a bit. And by the way, I don't mind. I'm a big boy. I can take it. I can take being vilified by anybody. I don't mind being vilified. I get it every day from people who support the lack of gun control in America, right? However, I do think it was a little unfair that you sparked off this firestorm of abuse to me when I am a supporter of your community and always have been. And I think it doesn't do you or your community any good service to try and make people like me the enemy and the target of abuse. And you've read the tweets, you know what I'm talking about, when actually I'm on your side.
I actually couldn't read the tweets. I could not read any of the tweets. My life today and the lives of trans people continue to have been more and more miseducated and misinformed within these tweets. And I think it's bigger than Twitter, and I think it's bigger than this book. This is a conversation I think our country is going through, well, my country, is going through a lot in terms of our culture on trans issues. And how then do we report on these lives without sensationalizing, without enticing, without warping and throwing definitions and labels on people who have the capacity and the know-how and the experience to claim their lives. And I think our exchange was good. You know, you compared me to Beyonce and I live for her, but it was also bad in the sense that it further showed other people in my community that if Janet Mock can be misgendered, if she can be labeled something that she is not, then what does that mean for me? And I'm only out here doing this work for these girls that grew up like I did. I wanted to give them a story that reflects them, a story that is sensitive and full of nuance and love.
Okay, Janet, I get it. My advice to you in return would be
I don't need advice. I don't need advice, but I will take guidance.
You've just given me advice I perhaps also don't feel I need, but I've taken it in good grace. So let me give you some advice. Next time you're doing a big high-profile television interviewer and you feel that the interviewer is miscategorizing your identity or your gender, my advice, and I say this in a nice, friendly, respectful way, is say something. Don't pretend it's all gone very well and shake that interviewer's hand afterwards and thank him, and then go off 5 days later and ignite a social media firestorm of abuse in his direction, because that isn't fair either. So I don't try and equate my struggle in life with yours. I've had it pretty easy by comparison. Your book remains a great, inspiring book. I remain a great supporter of the transgender community. I hope we can both move on from this, and I appreciate you coming back on the show tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.